Hello, and welcome to episode 16 of the Libby Shaw Show Podcast. So, I wasn't actually going to do this podcast. I was actually going to drop it and do something else. But then something happened today, and I was like, no, actually, I do need to do this podcast. So, the majority of this podcast was actually written and scripted a couple of weeks ago. But then, as I say, something happened today that prompted me to record this, and I will get to that later. So, what I really want to talk about today is why are Sydney men so aggressive and so unable to control their emotions and their temper. And I want to ask why they think it's okay to abuse, not just regardless of gender, that shouldn't even come into it. Pat, I really want to talk about all of the encounters I have had over the last few weeks with aggressive Sydney men who quite honestly need to get counselling and see a shrink and get a positive outlet for their aggression because everything I've witnessed over the last few weeks is truly disgusting. But it's actually nothing on what I witnessed today. Today really takes the cake. So anyway, getting to what I originally had as the topic of this podcast. So, I mean, as you know, over the last few weeks, since I purchased my car after having 13 years without a car, I have encountered the best and the worst of Sydney men. So yes, there are some good Sydney men out there, and so that's what I'm going to start by talking about. So a couple of times when I had car issues, the fob being lost so I couldn't start the car, I've seen the best of Sydney men, with strangers being willing to help me. As I mentioned in a previous podcast, one time I was outside Woolworths Stratford and the guy spent an hour or so trying to get my car going, but he couldn't. And, I wasn't aware at the time that post 2000 cars require an electronic clock for the engine to start. Another time I was broken down just as I'd gotten off a main highway, and a couple of guys tried to help me with my gear shift, which was start. Then there was another time when I couldn't pop the bonnet. I've since been able to pop it. I think it was just stuck or something for a while. Anyway, a guy at a servo was willing to help, and another guy was willing to help another time that I asked. I've also had really great service from my mechanic in the building next door. So those are some of the highlights. But unfortunately, I've also seen the worst behaviour from Sydney men over the last few weeks. And I mean the worst. So a couple of days after I purchased my car for work, I was on a delivery and there was no parking nearby. So I parked in a no parking zone and a driver abused me. Regardless of whether or not someone is legally or illegally parked, there is no justification for abusing someone. And yes, there not being enough loading zones or places for delivery drivers to park is something that I am going to write to the state government and Sydney City Council and other nearby councils about because it is a real issue. People shouldn't get abused for just stopping to do a delivery, to do their job. That is not okay. Then there was another time, and I was at a red light. I'm just going to repeat that in case you missed it. I was at a red light. Red, as in stop, as in you can't go when you have a red light. And this guy behind me was honking his horn at me to go. And I wasn't going to go without it being safe to go. So those are some of the earlier instances that stand out. But there's actually a few more that I need to talk about. But the first two aren't actually the ones that prompted me to record this podcast today or to add some new topics, events, new information to it. I'm going to end with the new information, which isn't actually scripted, by the way. A lot of this isn't actually scripted. A lot of this is now just ad-libbed. So anyway, so getting back to one of those earlier instances. So there's quite a few laneways in my suburb in Sydney. So I was driving the right way down the laneway on a Saturday, and this driver was coming in the other direction. Now, since this instance, I've actually checked the signage on that laneway, and it turns out that yes, this driver was in fact actually going the wrong way. He actually shouldn't have even been turning into that laneway because, like I say, a lot of these laneways are one way. So to give context, further context on this, the laneway is only wide enough for one car. And so this driver, yeah, get this driver wanted me to drive on the footpath. That's right. He wanted me to drive on the footpath when he was going the wrong way. And he wouldn't even reverse to give me enough space. And not only that, but expecting me to drive on the footpath. Not only is it illegal to drive on the footpath, it can also wreck your tires and wheel alignment. There was also a car behind me, so at the time I suspected that I was on the right. But like I say, I've since looked at the signage. Then the very next day, and this is the thing that initially prompted this podcast topic. But obviously, it's not the thing that has inspired me to record it today. So I was in a store and I was doing a pickup, and I was told by the sales assistant 2 minutes. So I waited for 2 minutes before setting the timer on my phone. Once that 2 minutes had passed, I then asked the staff again how long it would take. And not only did they not answer, which is rude in itself, like so many stores do, by the way. Stores will lie about how long something's going to be, or just ignore you. Hence why I now have a timer. So anyway, this guy behind me aggressively said, "Settle down," which immediately pissed me off. Like, I don't actually get paid to wait. And so that's exactly what I said to him. I'm not paid to wait. And so then he was a tradie, so doesn't at all surprise me. And he said, "I don't care." But that time he had really pushed my buttons. Just, you know, when you come across someone and their vibe, like they just have really bad energy. And his energy was just really, really awful. And it's unreasonable to expect someone to wait without adequate pay. That's literally slavery, which is illegal in Australia, by the way. So anyway, due to this tradie's abuse, I ended up cancelling the order and then walking out of the store. Like, he had no right to get involved or even comment on me asking a simple question when I'm just doing my job. But more than that, he had no right to abuse a woman. So another time, right? I was on a pickup and I had clearly indicated. Yeah, so I'm one of those drivers who actually knows what an indicator is. So I always use my indicator. And I had clearly indicated that I was stopping outside a restaurant. I also had my hazard lights on. And then yet another driver, a male driver, of course, not only wasn't paying attention to me indicating, he also thought it would be awesome and polite to honk his horn at me several times and then abuse me. And so anyway, it got me thinking, and basically, I will never, ever understand why Sydney men are so aggressive and have no chill. Do they not comprehend that driving safely is literally the law? And are these aggressive and abusive men? Because that's what they are, right? They're abusive. Do they not understand or have the mental capacity to understand what indication means? If I'm indicating to go left and then I'm stopping, that is not someone's cue to abuse me. Another thing that really irks me, right, are tailgaters. Once again, tailgating actually creates a safety hazard. And if someone is following too closely, that can cause a nose-to-tail collision. Clearly, Sydney men want to endanger other motorists. So, all of these experiences over the last few weeks in traffic or when dealing with men, and trust me, it is always men. It's not all men, but it's always men. And they always expect you to run red lights, abuse you for when you park, tailgate you, or abuse you in stores for asking a simple question, which I'm entitled to do. So anyway, all of these questions actually have me, all of these experiences have me wondering, what is actually wrong with Sydney men to think that so that's actually why I wasn't going to record this podcast this week because I've had a cold for the last couple of weeks. But I figured I wanted to strike while the iron is hot. So anyway, getting back to what I was saying, all of these experiences have me wondering what is actually wrong with Sydney men for them to think that abusing and disrespecting women is okay. I've never witnessed such revolting behaviour in my life as to what I've witnessed in the last month. What is the actual problem? Does it make him feel all big and macho to abuse a total stranger? They're so insecure and unsatisfied in their own life that they think it's okay to abuse a woman. And so that brings me to what happened today. Because I've been wondering over the last few weeks, right? I've been wondering if this was a Redfern issue and if it was related to the part of the town that I was in. But no, it's actually not. It's actually a Sydney issue. And it's actually a Sydney man issue. And it is a serious issue. So today, right, it's about 2 hours ago. I'm out at Bondi. I get a pickup for a pizza joint. So I look at where the pizza joint is. I look at the address. I drive to the location. There's no parking because, you know, councils and city and state governments, they don't realise that delivery drivers actually need car parking and that we actually need to have loading zones. So I pull over. I pull over into, and it's irrelevant that I pull over into a bus stop. For what further context, if I'm ever parking illegally, and yes, I do often have to park illegally because there aren't loading zones and there aren't actually car parks for delivery drivers to stop. So, but when I do that, I always either stop at the very front of the bus stop or the very back of the bus stop so that the bus driver actually can get in. So I never, it's not like I park in the middle of a bus stop. Like there is always a logic to how I stop. So anyway, I stop at this bus stop. I look on my phone to double check the address and the name of the business, which I can't find. So this bus driver, it's a red 333 bus going from Circular Quay to North Bondi, some towards North Bondi. So he then honks his horn at me, right? Now he keeps on honking his horn at me. So that pisses me off, as it is. It's like, dude, I'm just trying to do a pickup. Like, just because someone has a regular car does not mean they're parking for fun. Like, there may actually be a reason as to why they are stopped, where they are stopped. Oh, but he doesn't just honk his horn at me several times. Oh no, 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 no. And this is, I actually can't believe this even happened, to be honest. So he gets out of the bus. He gets out of the bus, then proceeds to yell verbal abuse at me, a couple of F words thrown in there, and this is the part that actually quite odd. Now, for further context, I always drive with my car doors locked. And today, if I hadn't had my car door locked, yeah, this guy probably would have tried. This bus driver probably would have tried to open my door because he doesn't just proceed. He doesn't just honk his horn at me. He doesn't just get out of his vehicle. He doesn't just get out of the bus and verbally abuse me and swear at me. Oh no 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 no. He bangs on my car in broad daylight with witnesses, including from the place that I was supposed to pick up at. So I'm sure it goes without saying that I ended up cancelling that pickup because it was like, you know, it's like this driver would have gotten violent with me had I not had the car locked. And he really crossed the line. Like he didn't just cross the line, like what did he think he was going to achieve by abusing me and trying to intimidate me? Did he think I was going to move out of the car space and give into his abuse? Did he really think that he could swear at me well in a Sydney bus's uniform and that I would be okay with that? I also photographed this driver and I have since reported him to Transport for New South Wales. And I really hope that Transport for New South Wales gives him a warning or sacks him. In all honesty, that driver should be sacked for what he did because it is never okay to abuse someone. And like I say, I was genuinely scared because of how he acted and how he behaved. And there is just no excuse for this behaviour from Sydney men. Now, I've never witnessed this in any other city I've lived in or any other people. And it's all Sydney men. Not all Sydney men, but it's Sydney men. And it's Sydney men from all ethnic backgrounds. Ethnicity doesn't play a part. This driver, right? You would think Pacific Island or white Australia. No, 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 no. It was an Asian driver. And he banged on my car window multiple times. How in what world do Sydney men think it is okay to abuse and swear at a total stranger, regardless of whether or not I look like I'm doing deliveries? Because I don't have an Uber sticker on my car. Because the way Uber has manufactured the stickers, they don't work. They don't stick to the car. So the sticker that I ordered doesn't work. So I'm going to order another one. Regardless, that's irrelevant. What is relevant is that Sydney men are aggressive. And in my research, I haven't actually been able to find much about why. The only thing that I actually could find is that despite Australians living in a great country, the men are extremely unhappy. And the article I managed to find suggested it may be because of the cost of living pressures and that they are unfulfilled in their work or home life. Well, I'm sorry, but that is no reason to abuse a total stranger or threaten them or to bang on their car. There is no excuse for that. There is no reason to honk a horn at someone and expect them to run a red light. Red isn't stop. I can't say that enough. And what's even worse is that Australians put up with this really shitty behaviour from Sydney men and just act like, oh, it's all good, it's fine. Poor Sydney men, oh, poor Sydney men. No, not poor Sydney men. Sydney men need to take a long, hard look at themselves in the mirror and think about their behaviour because it is really off-putting, unjustified, and illegal. It is illegal to threaten someone and to intimidate someone. It is illegal to physically harm someone else's property, which is what I suspected this driver would have done. Like I say, he banged on my car, not just once, not just twice, several times. There is no excuse for that. And so, getting back to my earlier point, because, you know, the city councils and state governments really need to create more loading zone spaces. And while I don't always park illegally, on the occasions I do, it is because I have no choice because there are loading zones available. And I'm always as fast as possible. And you know what a really screwed up thing is? If that bus driver hadn't abused me, I would have been gone in 2 minutes. I would have done my pickup and I would have left in 2 minutes. Instead, I stayed in that space for about 20 minutes because obviously, after dealing with that level of abuse from a stranger, I kind of just sit for a few minutes. And the councils and state government really need to think about these things when designing road infrastructure because there are actually people who need to drive and park for short periods of time. And on top of that, Sydney drivers really need to drive for the conditions. If there is torrential rain, for example, it's not safe to drive at the speed limit because there could be a greater chance of skidding and it takes longer to stop. And I just really want to reiterate it again. Sydney men have anger management issues and they have issues with women and they have issues with respect and they have issues with their tempers. And they really need to sort it out. And I really hope that driver is fat because the fact of the matter is, regardless of how someone parks or where they park or what they do, he shouldn't have abused me and he shouldn't have banged on my car. Like, that's, I don't even know what to say with. And I don't even know why there is such an issue with violence and aggression in Sydney. Because, like I say, I can't actually find anything other than, oh, Australian men are stressed about money. That's no excuse. That's no excuse. Anyway, that's all I have to say in this week's podcast. I do have a couple of other future podcasts planned, but as always, the topic I talk about depends on the information available and whatever's inspiring me. And I happened to record this one because there was an aggressive Sydney bus driver who thought he could get verbally abusive and aggressive and bang on my car in broad daylight with witnesses. Think about that.